Hey, everyone, it's Veronica.
This is Andy.
Cheers, it's Cheryl.
Howdy, all. This is Dalton, and this is Logging into UKG, a Chicago users production.
Your favorite HCM podcast by HCM admins for HCM admins.
That's all of us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Cheryl, what are we talking about today? I believe that you had a request due to some stuff that you're currently working on.
Yes, so out of the topics we were contemplating discussing, workflow stuck out in my mind.
Yes.
Yes.
We've got flows. We've got flows in different UKG codes.
Ooh,
Now, how long? That was good. How long did you work on that, Andy? Was that on the spot?
my bad. I'm supposed to be the call and response.
I was dancing to it. I love it.
Yes. Well, cool. Well, Webster's Dictionary, aka the UKG community, defines workflows as a series of steps that need to be completed for a specific action or change to be applied. It's longer than that, but
We'll go with
You
first definition.
summarized it.
I'm just
Yes.
setting the tone.
You did the AI summary for us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
For the record, I didn't want to talk about workflows, but then I remembered I just kicked off a workflow project, so maybe it's the right time to talk about it.
It
Mhm.
is, right? We love to hate them. And not even just talk about it in the system, because there's complicated things that I would love to do if UKG would just allow us to go into those conditional formatting and code it ourselves. Would love it. Yeah.
What about
someday.
attachments with workflows? Wouldn't that be nice?
Yes.
That would be amazing. And I know that HRSD does some of that, but I want it to be in core so we don't have to pay for an additional product.
Well, and it makes the most sense, right? So maybe we start in and talk. Andy's kind of giving us what do we call that? The summarized AI / Webster UKG dictionary version of what it is.
Huh?
What about what's going on in your world with workflow, Cheryl? Why is this like a hot topic?
Well, for me, I would like to talk about, so we know how it works inside the system. I'm curious what you all are doing outside of the system with workflows, right? Drop that bomb. I almost put it in my email too, and I'm like, nope. But it's because there's, for us, global organization, and everybody wants something different, which is great and sort of accommodating, except I can't get in and do the conditional because they don't allow coding into it, right? If I could just go in and do a couple little changes or pull in certain fields, like if we were able to do a calculated platform config and pull it in if it's upper or lower, there's so much I want to do with it that I just can't. And so now I have to think outside of the system. So I'm just curious, maybe you said you're in the middle of a project, so what's going on in your world?
So for the listeners, let's pray that Veronica stays with us. She's in a windstorm like Dorothy in Kansas. So we're going to pray for good internet connectivity. So I'd like to take it back. So what we're doing is starting baseline, right? And please give me a stop if you can't hear me or something. Baseline is just being able to do more than hire, terminate, and maybe supervisor change. Now, true enough, everything that UKG does is a workflow. But what we're trying to do is get approvals in the system at the current company. Like we're not even using it in former companies we did, but at mine, they're not it's just usually an HR person goes in, enters it, and it's done. We're now saying, why not have the manager or an admin or even the HR puts it in and then it routes throughout the system. Now, obviously, you mentioned there's limitations to that. So we're kind of starting with, hey, let's do low-hanging fruit terminations, voluntary. Somebody decides to leave, doesn't take a lot of work, but someone needs to be made aware. Notification needs to go to IT for offboarding. You may need to send it to someone else in the organization, or they need to be a part of the process. So we're starting with kind of like the top three which are terminations, supervisor changes, and then like organizational changes before we step into the world of like salaried conditional changes, right? Which is if it's greater than 10%, it goes here or whatnot.
Yep.
So I did that at a prior company, and we rolled out employee self-service first, and then we did manager self-service. Of course, we didn't have to do them at the same time because then the acronym would have been mess, and that's just setting you up for failure, right? But even to the point where rolled it down to the manager, use platform configuration where did a mapping role where the managers, HR usually has this long list of things they can pick from, would only allow a small list for the managers to make changes, whether it was a salary increase, hours increase, decrease, but that way they were only seeing what we allowed them to see. And then I was still mapping it to the direct code within the system. So from behind the scenes, job history, all that looked great. It worked for that organization. Doing that's not going to work for this organization, especially with having local HR sitting in different areas of the globe.
Mhm.
Yeah. So I've lived both worlds, but yes.
I think ultimately, though, the benefit of having workflows is for your organization is to be more self-sufficient in a couple different layers. One, from an employee standpoint, they can go in and based on your configurations, make updates, make changes. Now it's all a matter of what you want them to be able to do, but then attaching the correct approvals behind it. Same thing goes for managers. How manager self-service do you want your organization to be? What do you want them to do, and what do you want from an approval standpoint, especially with conditional stuff where there's changes in pay and whatever. And then, typically from an administration standpoint, I mean, I think there's pros and cons to each side. Do you not throw any of those workflows on it just because they are more admin, or do you want to have a bit of a safety net just in case if there's a change made and it's not 100% correct and you want someone else to review it? So there is a lot of benefits to adding workflows into your environment if you haven't already. And ultimately, from an HR standpoint, I always view it as getting rid of all the extra paper. If you can have everything in the system, everything is auditable, and you can view all the requests and send notifications across your organization. So that way, ultimately, everybody's in the loop. And that's kind of the few beneficial parts of workflows is everybody's in the loop if you want them to be, and from a self-service standpoint as well.
So something that we found pretty helpful with a lot of that, apart from just the self-service, is because we have it's not exactly an intranet, but it's similar, where people can go to get help for stuff. We'll post documentations for different workflows in there because, you say that workflows will go ahead and help decrease the paperwork or the emails in most of our cases. But if someone's having to go ahead and choose what to code for a lot of those drop downs, a lot of times you're still going to just get those same emails, or you're going to be denying it or sending it back or correcting it and extending the workflow. We have a lot of help little documentations for different workflows where you can go and be like, okay, oh, what am I doing? I'm doing this. Oh, that's the code I need right here. So that, again, we're putting that power and self-service into the hands of the employees and the managers.
That, Andy, I think you and I are switching places here because usually I'm the positive one and you're the salty one, and today I'm the salty one. Yes. on the workflows, because Dalton, good point on the SharePoint access, and just the documentation and any SOPs, the standard operating procedures, troubleshooting that you can put out there. And I've done that, past life. But, I'm looking at, I've got people that sit all over and our processes are not the same with effective dating. So a manager who has someone, let's say, sitting in Brazil, a direct report in Brazil, a direct report in Germany, and then maybe someone in the US, all the processes are different based on your effective date. And so a manager would have to know that. And then we have retros involved. And if there's history in the way, the workflow will fail. This is why I started to think of things outside of the system, proposing different processes, because I didn't, everything, you know, when you chart it out, current state, future state, pros, cons, it's a, I see this failing. And that's the last thing you want to do is roll something out that you see failing. So it's, I'm curious, right?
And why
Just
do you
to
see it? Why do you see it failing?
Because of we're not all in one process. Like I'll take our annual reviews. We are not on a common review date. Every region does it differently based on when they're due. You know, it's a most of the time it's a retro. So as a manager, I might have a direct report that they're effective February 1, but my due date for their form isn't until the end of February.
Yeah.
Or we have people, unfortunately, that don't do them on time, and we're doing retros backwards. So then we need some documentation or the bonus payouts, right? It's a percentage of salary. And so not everybody, depending on your position, that doesn't flow through UKG correctly. So if that amount changes, we need some kind of approval. So I didn't want some to go through workflow, some to be on a form, some to be through email.
Sure.
I did start this massive, beautiful Excel spreadsheet that I got locked down. I worked with our IT on a SharePoint drive, and we are running the new process parallel right now as a makeshift storing documents, because auditors too, right? I mean, the nice thing with workflows, you can give them access into the system with a view only access. They can trace it. If they wanted to see documentation though, where are they going? Yeah.
So for the users who don't have this, and we can easily talk technical, but I was jotting down notes. We've got to make this I'm trying to make it relative to our listeners. So how do we maybe take a step back and get out of the solution mode and get into what are the pros and cons? What are the opportunities and the challenges that we would have with rolling this out? Maybe what's the why? I think, Andy, you started down kind of like why to do it. And then I even think about what to do, like if there's no alignment with processes internally, if the system doesn't do everything you needed to do, like how do you put in workarounds, or if you have to extend it out? So maybe we start with like, what's the pros and the cons to using workflows within UKG? Maybe that's just like baseline so users can know, why would we even consider this? Why should we as an organization do that?
That's a good point.
Any thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, one right away, a lot of times it's nice with another level of approval, right? Where I worked before, payroll was the last to sign off on and everything, right? So if they're in the middle of processing payroll and someone tries to sneak in a change, it sits there until they approve it. Or sometimes someone puts in the wrong thing and they don't realize it, and there's an audit trail and you can send it back, you can correct it before it's actually on the employee's profile.
Yeah.
So I think those are all pluses.
Yeah.
Okay.
As I mentioned before, it takes away a lot of the paper aspect to everybody's work life. But one of the big ones for me that I had to learn the hard way when I was at a previous company that I was setting up the workflows, I wanted to get them into effect as quickly as possible, because otherwise, and as an HRIS professional, you're the one to have to do it all. And to make those changes, make those updates, and it takes a lot off of our plate and puts the onus and the responsibility back on either the employee or the manager or whomever in this process.
Well, and a workflow is preventing duplicate work, because we don't always know what the changes are. You know, normally the employee knows what they need to change to their profile, or the manager knows it. So if they have to go ahead and fill out a form or send an email or something that lists out each and every change, and then we have to go in and enter it, we're wasting their time, we're wasting our time. Like, it could just be, you know, the time that they're taking to type it into a form or write it out on a piece of paper could be the time that they're putting it in the system.
I think you brought up almost real time, right? It's almost real time. Like it's
Yeah.
directly in the system, it's visible, and it's minimizing the amount of effort and viewpoints that you have to document because things get missed if it's on paper.
Well, and it increases the transparency because if they're putting it in most cases,
Hmm.
depending again on the access that you give your employees, they can go ahead and see where their workflow is at in a process and see who it's pending. So there's not a, hey, I sent this email off into the void. Where is it? Did, hey, I emailed Andy. Is Andy entering it? Is Andy out and forgot to put his out of office? Does Andy need to double check something? Does he need to go ahead and get approval? And I'm just not hearing back as he's going through that workflow chain. Like if I put it in and I have the ability to see that and track that process, I'm no longer bugging Andy to be like, where is this? What's going on? Like, I know where it is.
Well, and you
Or
can
or
set
is
it up
it
role,
Mhm.
instead of individual. That's a great example, right? If you've got multiple HR people and you set the workflow up to go role based, which is
Mhm.
recommended, right? Then it sits. And so I'll just say if Dalton and I are working for the same company and we're doing benefit changes. Let's say we're in charge of when employees change their last name, because right now we were just focusing on managers, but employees, right? You don't want somebody to go in and change their last name and not have the documentation to back it up. Or they move states and you've got to change their work location. Payroll needs to see that because then taxes are implied. And all of, that's great. And then you don't worry about, did Andy get that email? Did Veronica get that email? It goes to a group of people.
Yeah.
Well, let's flip it on its head. Why should we not do it? Like, what are the cons to UKG's workflow tools? Cheryl, you mentioned some of it earlier, the limitations.
Yeah.
One of the I see you mentioned, well, I don't think it's a con, so I won't say it yet. But I do think there's other cons. What are some of the cons that we have that could be with even putting in workflows in general? I always say, people say losing the human element. I'm going to be honest. It's like the biggest one I hear in HR is like, well, no one's going to talk to me about my promotion. I just put it in and it gets done. And they're so concerned about the human touch not being there, is what I hear a lot of.
I find that to be a bad excuse. And the
I do.
reason I say that is because part of that workflow could be you put it in, and once it gets approved, notifications get sent out to the people that you work with or to your manager, like whoever needs to go ahead and take that next step to do that human element. Like we don't want them reaching out and, congratulating you before it goes through because it might get denied. But using that workflow to go ahead and encourage the human element, I think is so much better. Uh, I mean, me saying, congratulations, Veronica, I'm going ahead and entering your promotion right now. It's not a human element. That is me telling you that I am doing the data element.
Right. And you'd still say congratulations either way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's also an element, a human element on the approval side as well.
Mhm.
If you have a manager that doesn't typically go into UKG all that often and is a part of the approval process, now you're holding up the process from something that could have been processed or could get you in a potential retro situation
Mm.
because of that human element as well. So
So what's a real con then? What's a real con? If that's
I,
one that we could kind of say it's not a con, what's a real one?
combination.
I want to be able to do more conditional formatting. I want to be able to go, great. It's, Dropbox, whatever, I pick it, and or I want to be able to go in and treat it like BI and do my own coding into it.
Got it. So limitations.
Yeah.
yeah, I would say that there's certain things I think in any organization that the system doesn't capture just because your organization says, yeah, we know that you put that in the system, but here's our exception. And trying to go ahead and code for those exceptions is what makes it tricky. Sometimes it's doable, but just takes a lot of work. And sometimes it sounds like maybe in Cheryl's case, it's like, well, I'm trying to do the work, but so far I'm not finding that solution from the work.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I wish that there was a way, and I know that when you go through workflow approvals, you can either do it by role or by individual. I wish that rather than just adding or creating a new security role just for that purpose, I wish that there was a way that you could designate just one person specifically right on the actual workflow itself as a final approver or whatever, rather than kind of going through the rigmarole of creating a role to attach to that workflow for that person.
Because you're saying that you can only attach one role. It's almost like every step may need a different role.
Yep.
Right. Yep. I think one of the cons, I think it's kind of in the same vein as the lack of configuration. I'm a big fan of attachments.
Yep.
Like, especially termination, resignation letters, things of that nature, benefits workflows where you're doing things with putting people on leave and they got to turn a form in. Not being able to do that is a challenge. And I do think it's a bit clunky when you have conditional workflows. Like you have if-then scenarios that make it difficult, and the notifications are lackluster. Like if I want to send a notification to IT to offboard someone, or I wanted to trigger something else besides just what it's doing, that makes it hard to do. Or it's almost nearly impossible because you're just sending an observer or you're creating a BI alert that's doing something else. You're not truly using the workflow for what I would like it to be, which is truly like someone enters it on a nice front end, it flows, then it does and spins off. Am I buffet again?
Oh, you are buffet again, yes.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah.
But we still got it all, don't worry.
It was kind of cool.
It was just in slow motion, you know. Yeah.
It was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I'm hearing for most of the cons is not so much cons against the concept of workflows, but just some of the limitations inherent in the system itself.
The functionality.
Where we see like, hey, the workflow systems in the core part maybe could use a bit more expansion. And I say this as someone who doesn't have HRSD, and maybe that would solve it if I did. I have no idea, but it sounds like maybe a bit more robustness to that might solve a lot of these cons.
I love the idea of adding an attachment to it. So, Dronica, go put that idea into the shared ideas, and all of us listeners are going to go in and vote for that.
But before you put it in, see if there's one already there that we can go ahead and pile on. If not, put a new one.
Oh, just put it in, and you get credit for it.
I know I was a little shaky. I hope you guys can hear me. I want to go back to what Cheryl said about no alignment, which makes workflows hard. The one thing I do like about workflows is you can kind of create some individualized workflows. Now, internally, try to standardize, but if you don't by chance, and one location or business does X versus Y, you can at least utilize some of that. And there are some opportunities for platform config fields, which will be coming up. So I do like the fact that you do have some flexibility, and I don't think alignment should stop you from doing workflows, because I think you find synergies where you can, like the small low-hanging fruit, or pilot it with one area or one team that maybe has the best buttoned up processes that you could possibly, look at others that could do that.
So that's possible if you're talking about separate workflows, but if I think about, change job and salary, right? And we open it admin level, whatever I do to that impacts my population globally. Because and I think no matter what we're doing workflows, whether it's in the system or outside, right? We have some kind of workflow process, just some are clunkier than others. And the idea, getting away from paper and getting away, not just paper, but we should be able to do our jobs from anywhere, right? So if I need to audit payroll, shouldn't matter where I'm sitting when I do it. I should have access to what I need to do it. And I can tell you, after running and auditing payroll, a whole new perspective to how things are handled through the system and workflow and, with audits and all of that.
So we've hit some of the basics. Veronica, I believe that when you were jotting stuff down, you said, let's start here and then move on to Can you remind me what that move on to next step was for the next thing you wanted to talk about? Sorry
I
to put you
think
on the spot there. I'm just trying to remember.
no, that's okay. I kind of had opportunities and challenges, but I think let's talk a little bit about UKG's product, right? So
Mhm.
we've talked about workflows in general, but for our users or listeners, I say users, our listeners, let's talk about maybe some opportunities or where you can do workflows. I don't even know if people know all the components that you could turn on and make a workflow versus, what can't be a workflow.
And all the modules too, because workflows in
Correct.
Right.
core are
Yeah.
going to work differently than HRSD, than recruiting, than et cetera, et cetera. Like those
Yeah,
all function very differently.
They do.
absolutely.
Oh, and I got to throw this out here just with anything, right?
Mhm.
Especially with workflows. If you have a crappy process and you just try to shove it into a platform, don't do that, right? Like do the whole Lean Six Sigma thing, right? Where you do your current state, your future state with any project. I just think about that where I have, people come to me like, well, can't UKG solve this? It's like, we need to solve this internally first instead of
Mhm.
taking this process that isn't the best practice and cramming it into the system and think magic's going to happen.
Well, and ideally, maybe even do those side by side, because you
Yeah.
can go ahead and come up with a really good process outside of the system, but if the system thinks differently, you're going to have to recreate it anyway.
Yeah. No,
So
that's an excellent point.
take the moment that you're creating a workflow to double check that you have the best process you possibly can internally,
Yeah.
and that you're utilizing the best process you possibly can in the system.
Yeah. And
Wow. Look at you, Dalton. That was amazing. That was nice.
Are we
And
clapping? That's good.
I really
can you tell that we've talked about this internally a lot?
well said.
Yeah. Yes.
I think one of the opportunities in my mind is creating a workflow from hire to retire. It's thinking about from process hiring them from onboarding
Mhm.
all the way through the life cycle channels into the various components and through. To me, that's one of the biggest opportunities, and I think you said it, Andy, is reducing the amount of human touches and paper. Um, I think we underestimate how much paper and emails go back and forth in HR and
Mhm.
create spaces for error.
Mhm.
Mhm.
I think it would be nice to see us use the system.
Mhm.
Dalton, every time you smile, I feel like I'm lagging.
No, no, that smile was
I'm like,
full, like you're reading my heart there of like, I think people underestimate how many emails there are. And I'm like, yeah.
The joy. He was feeling the joy and warmth
Mhm.
of you putting that out there.
Yep.
Yes.
100%. I felt very seen.
and I don't know about HRSD because we don't have it. But I think a lot of customers don't understand that they already have workflows. They just need
Mhm.
to map it out. And it is a project, though.
Right.
You can turn on a whole bunch of stuff and it's just sticking data in the system, but a workflow is a process map of someone entering the data, whether it's an Excel form or an email or whatnot, and doing, and kind of flowing through the process. And I'm sorry, another challenge would be I would love if emails could trigger notification workflows because 90% of actions take place or conversations outside of the system.
Mm-hmm.
Someone sent an email and said, I want to promote Joe, his supervisor changed. So if an email or something could have acted on behalf of, and
Mhm.
kind of generated the start of it, that would be really kind of cool because that stops a person from saying, yeah, now go put that in.
I mean, that sounds a little bit like what we've seen with what UKG is trying to do with Bright, where instead of sending an
Yeah.
email, you go into the system,
Yeah.
you're like, I want to promote so and so, and then it
Yeah.
sort of asks and walks you through that.
Wait a minute. Can you step a little bit more into that? Because I know we've talked, but I didn't know they actually were further along in that.
I don't know if this is out yet. This is all because we don't have Bright. This is something that I know that they were looking at in the user research experience room at Aspire.
Mm.
I was
Quick plug
waiting
to
for
that
that
room.
plug.
Favorite
Yeah.
room.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, that's one of the things that they had you look at if you decided to go ahead and interact with the Bright exhibit. There is like, hey, if you go ahead and tell it that this is what you want to do, here's how it tries to walk you through, get the information from you, and then put it directly into a workflow to send it on. And then they asked for your feedback on what did you like about this, what didn't you like. So I don't know where they're at in that development process, but I know that that's something that they're looking at. And so your wish might be coming true sooner or later.
Hey, Bright, give
Okay.
Andy a $50,000 pay increase.
Crickets. I don't hear.
Yeah,
I don't hear AI response.
Done.
No.
So let's segue. I didn't have this one, but before we wrap up, I think it'd be interesting.
Uh-huh.
If you were sitting in any company and they didn't have workflows,
Mhm.
and you wanted to promote the usage of workflows in the organization, we might have the same, but I'm going to say top three. I was going to say top five. Everybody, what are your top three workflows to start with if you've got nothing and you want to get them started, and why do you recommend in that order? And I want to go in order of 1, 2, 3. Who goes first?
I mean, I'm excited, so I'll hop in.
Go.
I think if they have no workflows, I'm probably going to go ahead and divide it up into 2 workflows that start from an employee and 1 workflow that starts from a manager.
Okay.
So the 2 employee ones are probably going to be the change name, address, telephone. It's one of the most common changes for an employee. It's really easy for them to go ahead and do it themselves. And because of conditional formatting for workflows, we can go ahead and allow them to change things without supervision, unless it's like, hey, if they change a name field or if their state changes, go ahead and send that through a workflow for approval. Otherwise, let it go through. So it's a nice, easy thing. We can go ahead and promote it as employee power and them sort of owning their own data.
I like it.
The next thing is going to be, and I don't know if this technically counts as a workflow, but I think so because I can check it under the request section. And that is going to be their W-4s. Give them the power to update their tax information. Again, that's something that might change over time depending on, adding new dependents, removing dependents, different financial situations happening in their life. Again, it gives them the power. For the manager workflow, I'm going to go ahead and say the change job and salary. And the reason I'm making the big one is because we have the change that will encapsulate the change job, the change salary, and the change organization workflows. It gives them everything that they might want to do to their employees in one thing. And again, it starts to give them the power. Again, and a workflow is going to have those approvals. It's not like, here's the power, make the changes, we'll never see it again. But it starts to go ahead and take the stuff that happens all the time and essentially give them that so they're not having to reach out to someone else to do it. They enter it themselves. They know, they can go ahead and see where it's going. So we're giving them the power. We're letting them see how efficient it can be if they do it themselves. And that's why it's 2 employees, 1 manager.
You had me until that last one. So I'm interested in what everybody else thinks.
Oh, because the recommendation usually is termination because it's supposed to be the easier one. Is that where you were going? Yeah.
Well, the last I just wasn't. I was like, wait, what? But I think that's why we're all different. I'm interested to hear everybody's perspective.
Well, I agree with Dalton on the ones that you put out there. And yes, from the beginning of time of working with UKG, termination was the one that everyone has always said would be easier. But from a functionality standpoint and the probability of how often you're going to use it, the one that Dalton mentioned with the change job and salary, for sure, hands down. And you can do a value rules map on it, right? If you only want your employees to do, or your managers to make changes to a handful of things, or maybe it's just a couple things, make them see only what you want them to see, right? You don't have to roll out every option available to them right away.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and this way, the terminations have such a negative connotation that if you do the change job and salary, you're promoting the positivity of the system itself. And they're starting to go ahead and see the system as, when I go in and enter stuff, good things happen. And so we're positively reinforcing them.
Yes, I like it.
Andy's face. Andy, what are your thoughts?
I agree with the change name, address, and telephone number. That's obviously a given. I like Dalton's idea with the tax issues, but I would also piggyback on the direct deposit as well. I'd rather not have anything to do with that from the employee standpoint and let them enter that in. I am a fan of the termination, again, putting the onus back on the manager, but there's a bit of hand holding in there as well because you want to make sure that terminations are done timely, especially from a Cobra standpoint. So I give a little bit of grace with that one, but that's definitely an important one. I was just actually kind of going through the list just to see if there was anything else that really stood out to me. Does anybody have or allow the employees to upload their photos?
We do.
Mhm.
Okay, is there an
Yeah.
approval for that?
No.
Oh,
I mean, there could be because you then have to police, like if they put a photo with the gun, which I've had before, or somebody that's a photo of their cat, but not them.
yes. Yep. So that was going to be my one tip is if you do turn on the employee's ability to upload their photo, add an approval to it because you'd be amazed at sometimes the photos that come through.
That's fair. We don't let them because we save all the photos internally because that gets attached to their ID badges with access, and so we need to be able to have that actual picture to upload to their badge.
We do because it's employee empowerment, Dalton, just as you said with the other one, and it promotes positivity.
If I could go ahead and have that
Download
workflow.
them.
Yeah, no, if I could go ahead and have the workflow not just put the picture into the system, but also download it into a SharePoint folder, I would 100% do it because then we could go ahead and reference that for their IDs, and I would have everything I need for that.
Put it in as a share idea to be able to download photos because that'd be nice.
Yeah,
We're just starting a wish list here, aren't we?
Yeah.
I love it. Yay!
Those are all really good. I don't know that I've added. I mean, the one about job and salary, I'm always nervous because, again, it comes with education.
Yes.
Managers have to learn, and especially in organizations that aren't buttoned up with who makes what. Because some managers I've seen have been here 5 years and their people make more than them because they've been there 20 years. And doing salary, like there's still not good company education around what you do with the information, what it means, picking the right job codes, salary grades aren't completely exposed to everybody. So I'm always hesitant because I know that we have some work to do in that area. In my last company, we did really, really well with that. But in my current company, there's still a lot of education. But I think you all hit on the head: income tax, direct deposits, name, address, telephone numbers. But I also think supervisor changes is the only one you didn't pick, which is change organization, because it happens so frequently. We're moving around cost centers and things of that nature. And we kind of hold on to it. And it's like,
that
give away change organization.
That can be done in the change job and salary, which is why I said that one.
Yeah. But if you're not ready to do that, but what if they're not ready to do that? So like, here's one that still has some low hanging fruit, that'd be my thought.
What are your guys' thoughts on future dating?
I love it. And I'm mad we don't have it turned on.
I love it as well, especially when I started where I'm at and I found out they were waiting to the day of to make the termination. I was like, you don't have to do that. They're like, seriously? I'm
or
like,
the
seriously.
Yeah.
Or the hire. Right. And some of them, depending on where they're at, they want to wait. But I love it. But Andy, it sounds like you might have a story with there, or you're just curious.
I'm just more curious. For those that are listening that may be unaware, future dating is putting in a request for a change in a future date. So then once that date comes and goes, then that change will automatically be added to the employee's profile. I don't dislike it. I'm always very nervous about it. There has been a few times when I future dated something and the date's come and gone and that information hasn't updated. So I always get a little bit nervous with it. I'm not saying that this applies to everybody. Maybe it's just my quirkiness and my anxiety with it. But the other downside of it is I have experience before where a person is future dated and they're terminated, and then they decide to stay, and then it's never caught. So then there's a whole process of rehiring somebody. So there's times where I like it, and there's times where it just gives me a little anxiety.
Well,
A
and
little
there's
headache too. Yeah.
and there's also future dating and effective dating, which kind of go hand in hand, and people forget about it because the effective date honors the effective date, but future date is future dating.
Yeah.
Now, my company doesn't have it on the current one, but I'm working on it because I love it because I know I saw you freeze. The future date is you terminate someone next week and then they term today and they lose all access. That right there is a reason why I like it. Or for workforce management, if you don't hire the person in enough time, they have to wait to have access to clock in and to get into the time system. So future dating is good in a lot of ways that way.
Yep.
Ooh,
Yeah.
do you guys want to hear about something that's coming down the line with
Yeah.
workflow and maybe a potential new status?
Ooh, are we
Yeah.
getting a peek behind the curtain here?
Yeah, so they're looking at a pre-hire where it would go in as a pre-hire. So your future dating, they wouldn't turn to an active status. So there's a lot that could be done with that. Sneak
That's
peek, you heard
fun.
it here first. Now,
Exclusive?
UKG, you have to
Yeah.
deliver on that. I'm just saying.
Before we get too much further into any final wrap-up discussions, do we want to go ahead and choose our word of the episode?
Would love to.
Yes.
Wonderful. I was thinking that maybe we would go ahead and choose the name of one of the workflows, just to sort of tie it into the theme. But I'm pretty open if anyone has anything else that they would prefer instead.
Go with what you want.
Yeah.
All right.
Sounds like
Well,
a juicy one.
Veronica's frozen, so
Yeah.
I don't think she can argue against whatever you're going to pick.
well, I really like your idea of oh, she's coming back just a little bit.
She's coming.
And
You
I like your
can't hear
idea. Say that again. We're getting just a little bit, Veronica.
Wait, Dalton, get it out before.
Okay, fine, fair enough. Andy, I liked what you said about the workflow to change direct deposit because you're right. I do think that if I had to say it again, I would choose that over the taxes because that changes so much. So do we want to go ahead and have our word, and this is going to be a little, it's a 2-word now for this one of the episode, be direct deposit.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to argue against that because
All right.
taxes.
You are salty today.
I know, right?
Jeez.
And you got to give up your salty badge now. Cheryl gets it instead.
I know, right?
Is this what I sound like on a regular basis?
Yep,
Yeah.
it is.
All right.
But we still hang out with you anyway.
All right.
Because taxes, I mean, if you think about it, if someone changes their address and we don't change their work location, now they're going to get a tax form in each state.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they shouldn't have a tax form in each state. I'm fighting it.
Are you saying that you would prefer the word of the episode to be taxes?
Ooh, does anybody want any word to be taxes?
No.
Well, okay. So are we good
Yeah.
with direct deposit then?
How about money? Just money.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, let's do it. Nice way to go ahead and tie the two together.
Yes, thank
All right.
you. Less salty.
Our word of the episode is money. So, for those of you who don't know what the word of the episode is, when you go ahead and join us for our monthly calls, you can go ahead and at the end of each call, we have a quiz and a chance to earn a gift card. One of the quiz questions will always reference the word of the episode of the most recent podcast or podcasts, if we've had two between between sessions. So this right here is a quiz answer and gets you one step closer to that sweet, sweet gift card. Money.
I like it. And if you're getting extra spicy on our next call, show me the money, right?
Yes.
Well, what do we want to do for a wrap up? Any other final questions or thoughts that folks have on workflows?
I think it was a great discussion.
Sure.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, as always.
Awesome.
I think we're good.
Great. Well, this has been a Chicago Users Group production. Logging out. Have a good one, all.
Bye.
Bye.